Light. Color. Shapes. Sounds. And most exciting of all, life. Everyone can conduct this power. Everyone has an imp. Imps are the key to the power of the Dreamiverse. The Dreamiverse teems with their energy, waiting for you to choose your very own. Which one is yours? Yes! That one belongs to you. Now to see what your imp can do. Press and hold the Options button, and your imp will snap to the center of the screen. Yes! Great! Your imp responds to the smallest movements of your wireless controller. You only need to move the controller a teeny tiny amount to get... Go on, move your imp around a bit. Think of the light bar on the front of the controller as a flashlight beam conducting your imp. You see that little cluster of creativity? Move the pointy part of your imp to touch it. That's it. Now, collect those two clusters at the top and bottom. See how that feels. Yes, magnificent. You can also nudge the imp against the edge of the screen to recalibrate it. Anytime your imp gets unruly, press and hold the Options button to recenter it. Now, let's play with the Dreamiverse. See if you can catch all those dancing shapes. Unleash those colors and sounds. Very good. You're a natural. Wow, it's a symphony. See how your imp can affect everything it touches, wandering, soaring and leaping, playing through the wilds of your imagination. You're amazing. You're wonderful. You're a dream surfer. You're... Oh no. You found the wall of doubt. Don't worry, everyone doubts themselves in the beginning. See that loose brick? Try using the pointy tip of your imp to grab hold of it. That's it. Pull that wall down. Look at that brick. Who does it think it is? Get rid of it! Your idea's getting away. Chase it down. should be in here somewhere. Oh, more barriers. Cast them aside. There it is. Come on. Keep up. Dark. The only source of energy is you. What can you do?
One,
2,
3.
dream.
Ah! We have light. A good start. If only we had a way of exploring this place. Does that cone? Now hold the T button on your secondary controller to make it walk. While you're walking, you can tilt the secondary controller to steer the puppet. You can make it jump by pressing X on the primary motion controller. There must be some way to get up there. Great work. We're so close. Ah, look at that seedling. The Dreamiverse loves to help things grow. That's it. Amazing what a little nurturing can do. Almost there. We're here at last. Dreams, your vast, vibrant, sublime universe of possibilities. Let's start dreaming. Ah, this is your very own home space. You'll always start dreaming from here. As you can see, my little cone friend is happy to help you wander around. You got a prize bubble. Well done. There's a lot more around. They've got all sorts of useful goodies in them. See if you can find a few. Excellent finds. Now for the entrance to the Dreamiverse. Press the circle button to get your imp back. Use the tip of your imp to click on that little ball of energy. So much to see. Decisions, decisions. Choose dream surfing to experience other dreamers' creations, or pop into dream shaping to make something of your own. Ah, the Home Space Editor. A great place to start your creative journey. We're still working on this right now. In time, you'll be able to put things you've made here so it feels like your own. Look at all the wonderful things you've found. Ooh, that looks fancy. Where's nice for it to go? Everyone loves taking photos. Take a picture of that beautiful vista you've made, or snap that odd creation you just found, just to make sure your eyes aren't deceiving you. Ah, a nice little spot to show everyone your best self. And a place for your fluffy, impy friend to live. Make yourself comfortable. Here's where you come to customize your imp. This is just a small selection. There will be lots more soon. This is dream shaping. Here you have the power to manifest anything you can imagine. Anything. Music, a story, a piece of art, a whole game, even something there isn't a word for yet. Create things from scratch using the dream tools. Or you can use them to remix something another dreamer has made. For now, I'll take you to the Dreams Workshop, where my friend, the Dreams Architect, will introduce you to the secrets of creation. Go on in. He won't bite. Promise. So you want to learn the ropes of dream shaping, but you don't know where the tools are on the shelf, or how to use that intriguing gadget, or you want to know what that strange contraption over there does. Architect, assist us. Ah, hello, Architect.
Hello, Queenie. Why am I a squirrel?
Just a temporary physical form for you. I like it. It's cute.
Well, thank you. It's better than the last one.
Now, show this dream shaper how to unleash their creative powers.
Done! Follow me, Dreamer. Oh, it's so exciting that you're here. I have been really looking forward to this. There is so much to show you. Gameplay, animation, art. There's no limit to what's possible. This is the Dreams Workshop. Which controller do you have? Look at you with your fancy motion controllers. Looks like you're ready to start wielding them like a first-class dream shaper. Make sure you follow the steps carefully if you want to get the most out of this tutorial. It's not just about getting to the end, it's the journey that counts. Shortly, you'll be in edit mode, creating and editing your own scenes. First, I'm going to show you how to move around a scene. Welcome to edit mode. You can see that we're in edit mode because the assembly mode icon is in the top left of the screen. If you ever need to remind yourself of the controls, select that icon with the X button on your primary controller for a reminder. And select it again to hide the controls. To give you something to do, I've hidden a puppet somewhere in this scene, which we'll need in later tutorials. I've left some clues to help you find it. Before we search for the first clue, let's start by looking around. You'll notice that there are two imps in the scene tracking the movement of your motion controllers. If you can't see them, just make sure that you're in front of your PlayStation camera, then hold down the start button on either motion controller until the imps reappear. You can do this at any time to recalibrate your imps if they feel too close, too far away, or off-center. The primary imp is the one with a face. You control this imp with your dominant hand. You can set your handedness in your preferences, which you can find in the options menu. Your secondary imp holds the assembly menu. You can bring it up by holding down the T button on your secondary controller. That's the one underneath that looks like a trigger. Try it now. You won't need it just yet, so go ahead and release the T button to hide it again. Your imps are used to move around the scene in 3D space. Use them to grab and pull yourself around. Simply reach out with your imp, then hold the move button on that controller to grab that point in space. We call this using the grab cam. Try grabbing a point in space. Using either controller, press and hold the move button and just twist and tilt the controller a little bit. Where you grab in space is important, as that's the point your view will rotate around. Here's a good habit to get into. Each time you grab with the grab cam, twist and tilt the controller a little bit to get a sense of where the imp has grabbed in 3D space. Now try grabbing with either move button and looking around you. Is there an orange cone around here? You found it. There's a blue cube around here somewhere too. See if you can find that. Now try looking upwards to find the pink pyramid. That's the one. Okay, let's turn back towards the shapes floating on the island. Reach out with your imp, then hold the move button on that controller to grab that point in space. Then, while you hold the move button, pull that controller back towards you to pull yourself forward in the scene. You can do this with either controller, so you can alternate them to pull yourself along. Use the move buttons to grab cam towards those two shapes on that cloud, then push yourself back away from them. You can even move from side to side in a similar way. Be careful not to press both move buttons at the same time. That triggers another function, which I'll explain in a moment. If you do it by mistake, don't worry. Just use your primary X button to press the red button that appears by your secondary imp. When you're comfortable with moving and looking around with the grab cam, you're ready to move on to the next step. If you want to re-watch this step, you can. Hover your imp over the buttons on the video to see what they do. Use the skip buttons to move between tutorial steps. Or just rewind 10 seconds if you miss something. If it gets in your way, grab and move the video with your imp using the primary T button. You can minimize the video and play along with audio only. Or you can maximize it to watch in instructions view if you prefer. In instructions view, you can see more information about the steps. Once the current step is finished, press the arrow button to move on to the next one. My first clue is hidden somewhere on this island. We should probably look around these objects and see if we can find it. But they're quite large and far away. It would be a lot easier if our imps could reach further into the scene. Luckily, it's easy to change the reach of our imps to suit the objects we're working with. Remember I told you not to press both move buttons at the same time in the last step? Well, now's the time to do just that. Hold your imps so that their tips are either side of the shapes on the cloud. Then tap both move buttons at once. Don't hold them down this time. You'll see a circle with a number in it for a moment. That means your imp reach has changed. You'll notice that very little else will change, but now your imps can easily reach the shapes on the cloud, as if they're at arm's length. That's why we call this maneuver changing your imp reach. Now that you can reach further in the scene, you can easily move around the shapes. Just grab cam onto the shapes and rotate your point of view around them. The point in space where you grab is the point you'll rotate around, so remember to wiggle the imp when you grab cam to check its position. Try that now and look for the clue. Once you've found it, move on to the next step. Did you find that clue? It was on the back of one of those shapes. Looks a bit like a rocket. I do love a cryptic message. Why don't you look around with the grab cam for any rocket-related goings-on? Don't forget to twist and tilt your view a little each time you grab. Ah, look over there, on that island in the distance. Those shapes look a lot like the ones in the clue. That's a long way away. Try changing your imp reach to get us there more easily. Hold your imp's tips either side of the target, then tap both move buttons. Now use your extended reach to grab that island and pull yourself over to it. Simple. Now that you're next to it, you'll need to adjust your imp reach again so you can interact with these objects more easily. Remember, always set your imp reach to match whatever you're working on. With your imps on either side of an object, tap both move buttons. If there isn't an object where you need one, just find something at a similar distance and set your imp reach using that. If you get in a kerfuffle, just select the one-to-one imp reach button near the secondary imp, using X on the primary controller. This will reset your imp reach back to the default scale. And remember, you can recalibrate your imps at any time. Just press and hold either start button for a couple of seconds. Once you reach the island, make sure you're looking directly at the cylinder and the cone at a sensible distance. When you're ready, move on to the next step. Think back to the first clue. The cone was on top of the cylinder, right? But how can you move them? Well, in edit mode, you interact with everything using your primary imp, the very tip of your imp's pointy part. See how there's an icon in a circle there? That shows you what tool the imp is using. Right now, it's the arrows icon, which means the imp is using the move tool. That's the default tool in edit mode, because editing a scene means moving things around a lot. Let's see the primary imp in action. First, grab the cone. Hover over it with your imp, then press and hold the primary T button. That's the trigger button underneath the controller. Now your imp has grabbed it, simply move the cone by moving the controller. Try to put it on top of the cylinder, just like in the clue. It's important to remember that grabbing with the T button is different to using the grab cam. When you're using the T button, you can grab anything, no matter how far away you are, as long as the tip of your imp is hovering over it. You don't have to be able to physically reach it with your imp the way you do with the grab cam. Get it roughly into place, and I'll show you how to refine it later. Once you're done, you're ready for the next step. Now, that looks pretty good, at least from this angle. Creating scenes in three-dimensional space means that you should always look at your creations from different angles. The easiest way to do that is with the grab cam. Just like before, grab with either move button and rotate your point of view. Try it out on the cone. Don't forget to set your imp reach. Place the imp on a point in 3D space that you want to rotate around, then press and hold the move button on that controller. Now rotate the controller to move your point of view around the cone. Your wrist will only bend so far, so let go of the move button and grab and turn again if you need to. Now that you can get a proper look at it, check that the cone is on straight. Unlike mine. When you're at the right angle, use the primary T button to grab the cone and make any adjustments you need. Don't forget to recalibrate your imps if you need to. Here's a little secret called nudge. If you don't press T all the way down, but just hold it lightly, you can move the cone slowly, giving you finer control. Try holding the T button lightly. Your imp will go stretchy and you'll be able to move the cone with more control. Once you're happy the cone is straight, you can move on to the next step. Hey, look at that! Another clue. It's a molecule. I know because I put it there. Just play along with me. Why don't you look around with the grab cam and see if you can find another molecule? There's one, over there by that island. You're hot on the trail. We could change our imp reach and pull ourselves there with the grab cam. But there's another way to zip around scenes without changing your imp reach. It uses the move button, like the grab cam, but you'll also need to hold the secondary triangle button. You see, the secondary triangle button is a very special button. You know the way that, on a computer keyboard, holding down Shift changes what some keys do? Well, in Dreams, holding down the secondary triangle button changes what the other buttons do. Maybe it's best if I show you. See that orange cube in the distance? Hover your primary imp over it to highlight it. Now hold the secondary triangle button and then tap the primary move button, which is the grab cam button. You don't have to hold it. Whoa! Fast, huh? Let's try it out again on the rocket you built earlier. Hover over the rocket with your primary imp. Hold the secondary triangle button, then press the primary move button to zoom right on over without changing your imp reach. Try it out again to get back to the orange cube. Look around this island and see if you can find my next clue. Set your imp reach to one of the objects and use the grab cam to look around the island. Remember to choose your point of rotation carefully with your imp when you're using the grab cam. Once you've found the clue, you can move on to the next step. Did you find the last clue? It was on the back of the orange cube. What on earth could it mean? If I had eyes, I would wink at you right now. I can't see any other green trash cans around. Unless... Of course, the trash can is the icon for the delete tool. I'm so devious. That must mean you need to delete the orange cube. You can delete anything in edit mode using the primary triangle button. Just hover your primary imp over the cube, then press the primary triangle button. And it's gone. These tools are powerful. Delete the orange sphere next. If you change your mind or delete the wrong thing, you can undo. Just tilt or twist your primary controller to the left and press its square button. And if you want to redo, just tilt or twist it to the right and press the primary square button. You can undo and redo pretty much anything, not just deletions. Oh look, there was a clue hidden in the cube. An arrow. Perhaps there's another one like it nearby. Look around with the grab cam and see if you can spot it. Once you've found it, you can move on to the next step. That was my final clue telling you where to go. The island right above us. I know you're an expert in moving around horizontally, but let's practice moving vertically. Look up at the island above and set your imp reach to it. Use the grab cam. Press the move button alternately on each controller and pull to climb up and see what's on that island. Then continue to the next step. Right, here's the puppet I reserved for you. Let's call her Connie, 'cause she looks like a cone. We need to help Connie walk through the door to complete this tutorial. To do that, we're gonna have to switch over to play mode. Remember, right now you're in edit mode. This is where you create and edit your scenes. In play mode, you can experience the scene just like a player would if they found it in the Dreamiverse. You can't make any changes in play mode, but you can take control of characters and try out what you've made. To switch over to play mode, open the options menu by pressing the start button on either controller. Hover over the controller icon with your primary imp, then press X to select it. To control a puppet in play mode, you first need to possess it with your primary imp. Hover over Connie, then press your primary T button. She's full of beans, isn't she? I picked her just for you. Now that you've possessed Connie, hold the secondary T button to make her walk. While she's walking, you can tilt the secondary controller to steer. You can also rotate the camera view around Connie by holding the primary move button and tilting the controller. Practice walking her around, then take her to the door. Oh, looks like the door's too high. There's more to Connie than meets the eye, though. She might be able to reach it if you make her jump by pressing the primary X button. Oops. I remember now. I always forget to put the steps in. Better head back into edit mode. To switch back to edit mode, just press start again and then select the pencil icon. When you're back in edit mode, head to the final step. Did you see those stairs on the island below us? Those might come in handy now, so let me show you a new move to help us retrieve them. There's a quick way to move and change your imp reach at the same time. Let's give it a try. Move both imps apart, then hold both of the move buttons. While still holding both move buttons, move the imps together like you're closing some curtains. This maneuver will move you away from the target whilst extending your imp reach. You'll notice a circle and a number while you're zooming. These show you what your imp reach is. Keep zooming out until you can see both islands, the one above and the one below. If you've deleted the stairs, you can undo by tilting or twisting the primary controller to the left and pressing the primary square button. Just keep pressing the square button until the stairs come back. Okay, now set your imp reach by tapping both move buttons, with your imp tips on each side of the stairs. Then grab the stairs with your primary T button. And, without letting go, move the stairs roughly into position in front of the door. When they're roughly in position, let go of the T button. You can tidy it up in a moment. Now zoom in on the stairs. Position your imps on either side of them, then hold both move buttons and move the controllers apart. When you're zoomed in, let go of the move buttons and adjust the position of the stairs for Connie. If you need to recalibrate after all that zooming about, Just hold either start button until the imps snap back to the center of the screen. There, that should do it. It's back to play mode now. Remember, press start, then select the controller icon with your primary imp. You'll be switching back and forth between edit and play mode a lot when you're creating your own scenes. It's a great way to test out your scenes, making sure they look and work just how you want them to. Okay, I think we can get Connie to the next lesson now. All we need to do is walk her through the door. Possess Connie with the primary T button, then hold the secondary T button to make her move. Once you walk through the door, you'll unlock a variety of new tutorials and masterclasses in the Dreams Workshop, plus some elements to stamp into your home space. You'll also be able
Want to carry on with the fundamentals? You can also press the circle button on your primary motion controller to see other topics.
In this tutorial, you're gonna learn all about the exciting world of logic. Pay no attention to Cuthbert. It's not as complicated as it sounds. I promise. Let's check out the scene. See the buttons on the platforms in front of our good friend Connie? They activate the bridges that will take her to the next platform. At least that's what they're supposed to do. To get them working, you'll need to connect them to the gadgets that control them. You can't see gadgets when you're in play mode, but they let you do all sorts of useful things in edit mode. You can tell gadgets apart by their color and icons. Green gadgets are sensors and inputs. This one is what we call a trigger zone. It's one of the more versatile gadgets. It can trigger other gadgets when it detects something in the scene. Like in this case, Connie standing on the button. Hi, Connie. If you select the gadget with X, you'll be able to see its detection zone. That's it, right there above the button. Press the circle button to deselect the trigger zone, and let's look at the next gadget. Red gadgets are movers and outputs, meaning they make things happen in the scene. This particular gadget is a rotator, and it's connected to the first bridge. Click R3 to start time, and let's see what it does. Well, not a lot right now by the looks of it. That's because the rotator is switched off. You can tell because the gadget is dim at the moment. But if we connect these two gadgets together, we can turn the rotator on using the trigger zone. In the next step, I'll show you how. Before we start connecting things, make sure you can see both gadgets. You'll notice they have ports sticking out of their sides. Ports on the left are inputs, and the ones on the right are outputs. Hover over the output port on the trigger zone now. You'll see the word detected appear. That means that when the trigger zone detects something, this output will send a signal. Before it can send that signal to the rotator, though, we'll need to connect them with a wire. So hover over the detected output and press R2 or X. You'll notice your imp is now tethered to the port by a wire. Power ports have appeared on the gadgets too. It's these ports that switch gadgets on or off. OK, drag the wire over to the red rotator gadget. Now hover over the power port at the bottom, then press R2 or X. Once the gadgets are connected, the wire will disappear automatically. That way, your scene won't get cluttered. After all, you don't want wires all over the place. You can see the wire again by hovering over either gadget. OK, time to test our connection out. So let's switch over to play mode in the options menu. That's more like it. Now the trigger zone detects Connie when she stands on the button and activates the rotator on the bridge. As soon as she steps off, the rotator stops working. You can use the button to get the bridge lined up with the platform. Once Connie can make it to the second platform, you can head back to edit mode and move on to the next step. Now that we've connected the rotator, let's take a look at the second platform. See the white gadget on its side? This gadget isn't a sensor or an output. It's called a microchip. Microchips are used to organize logic in scenes. You can think of them as boxes of gadgets and wires. Let's have a look inside. Hover over this one with your imp. Hold L1 and press X. It's just like scoping into a group of objects. This window is the microchip's canvas. And if these gadgets look familiar, it's because they're two rotators. Each one controls half of this jointed drawbridge. Try to connect the output from the trigger zone to the power ports on the rotators. You can create multiple wires from the same output. Or you can clone wires in the scene by holding L1, then grabbing them with R2. Clone the wire near the rotator to create a new wire from the trigger zone. Once you've connected the trigger zone to the second rotator, switch over to play mode and make sure it's all working. OK, jumping on the button now will activate the trigger zone and raise the drawbridge so that you can cross over the... Oh! Wait a minute. The bridge has dropped down before Connie could cross. That's because the signal to the rotator stops sending as soon as Connie stepped off the trigger zone. Switch back to edit mode and rewind time with L3. In the next step, I'll show you how to make signals stay on. If we want the bridge to stay up, we'll need to add a gadget between the trigger zone and the rotator to keep it activated. We can do this with a counter. So let's go into the assembly menu. Press square to open it if it's closed. Select the gadgets menu with X. You'll find the counter in the logic and processing section. The gadgets in this menu take an input signal and change it in some way before sending it on. Go ahead and select the counter. Its icon is a tally counter. Now you can see the gadget on your imp. Hover over the microchip and it will snap to the canvas. Press R2 or X to stamp the counter onto the microchip, then press circle to unequip it. The counter gadget counts up or down whenever it receives a signal through its inputs. By default, it starts its count at 0 and has a target of 1. Once it reaches that target, it sends a constant signal through its counter-full output port. Before we connect it though, let's tidy up the wires connecting the trigger zone to the rotators. Just hover over them and press triangle to delete them. Now press R2 or X over the detected output of the trigger zone to create a new wire. Connect it to the increase count input port on the counter. That's the port with the plus sign icon. Now when the trigger zone is activated, the counter will go up to 1. And, this is the important part, it will stay at 1 even after the trigger zone deactivates. Now hover over the counter-full output port of the counter. This port sends a signal when the counter reaches its target. Create a wire with R2 or X and connect it to one of the rotator's power ports. Then do the same for the other one. Time to switch to play mode and try out our new connections. When you're happy everything's working as it should, return to edit mode and move on to the next step. Just one more bridge for Connie to cross. As you can see, we have another microchip on the platform, so let's open it up. Hover over it with your imp, hold L1 and press X. Okay, looks like we have everything we need here. But Connie's an adventurer, so how about we make this last bridge more challenging? Adding a timer to the logic should get the adrenaline going. Once Connie activates the button, she'll only have a few seconds to cross before the bridge drops back down. Let's head back to the assembly menu. If it isn't already open, press square. Then go into the Gadgets section. You'll find the timer in the same place as the counter, the Logic and Processing section. Its button has a clock face on it. Now go ahead and stamp the timer gadget onto the microchip with R2 or X. Then unequip it from your imp with the circle button. Now let's take a closer look at the timer's inputs and outputs. You can see their names by hovering over the ports. The first input is a start timer port. Once this receives a signal, it will start the clock. The second one is reset timer, which sets the time back to 0. Over on the output side, we have timer finished and timer output. Timer finished sends a signal when the timer reaches the required number. It's set to 5 seconds by default. Timer output is a little more sophisticated. The signal it sends represents the timer's current progress. If, let's say, it's only halfway to its target, the signal it sends will be half strength. So how do we connect this so the bridge only stays up for a few seconds? Well, we need the bridge to be raised while the timer is running. So create a wire on the timer output with R2 or X. Remember how we used the counter on the previous platform? We can use one here too. Just like before, connect the wire to the counter's increase count input. Then connect the counter full output to the rotator's power port. Time to see if it works. Click R3 to test it out. As you can see, since the timer isn't connected to a trigger yet, The clock starts ticking as soon as we play the scene. The bridge goes up, but doesn't drop down when the timer finishes. That can only mean one thing. There's a problem with the logic. If you'd like to figure it out for yourself, feel free to check the gadgets and see what's wrong. Or move on to the next step and we'll go through it together. So let's take a look at why the bridge stayed up after the timer finished instead of going back down. Remember how we used the counter earlier to remember the signal from the trigger zone? Well, now it's remembering the signal from the timer, so we need to make it forget that once the timer finishes. Let's go over to the counter gadget. Hover over the inputs to see their names. This one here is Reset Count. It'll put the counter back to 0, which will turn off the rotator. So all we need to do is connect it to the timer, but to which output? Aha! There we go. We can use the timer finished output. Hover over it and create a wire with R2 or X. Then stretch the wire over to the counter and connect it to the reset count input. But we also need to reset the timer, otherwise the logic will only work once. So let's get another wire from the timer finished output and connect this one to the reset timer input. You'll recognize it by the rewind symbol on it. All we have left to do is to connect the trigger zone to the start timer port so Connie can activate it. Okay, that was a lot of connections. So before we test it out, let's go over the logic we've made. First, Connie activates the trigger zone, which sends a signal to start the timer. Once the clock starts running, the timer output becomes active. This tells the counter to count up. That then turns on the rotator and raises the bridge. Now this is where the really clever stuff kicks in. After 5 seconds, the timer finishes its count, which activates the timer finished output. This in turn resets the counter to 0, cutting the signal to the rotators and lowering the bridge. And let's not forget, it also resets the timer, so the logic could be triggered again if Connie didn't cross the bridge the first time. Isn't logic exhilarating? Take your time digesting all that. Logic is easier to read if you route your wires neatly. Grab wires with X to change their paths. You can also move the gadgets around by grabbing them with R2. Feel free to test it out in play mode, but don't leave the scene just yet. I have one more thing to show you. So, on the third platform, we've set up a timer that makes the bridge drop after 5 seconds. But I think that might be too easy for a seasoned pro like Connie. Let's make it a little bit more challenging. First, if you're in play mode, switch back to edit mode and rewind time with L3. Let's move in closer to the microchip with the timer. You can use the grab cam, R1, to move your view. Now I'll show you how to tweak a gadget's settings. Hover over the timer gadget, hold L1 and press square. This tweak menu contains the settings for the timer. Hover over the sliders and buttons to see their names. The top slider sets the target time for the timer. If we lower this setting, the bridge will stay up for a shorter time. To adjust the value, hover your imp over the slider, then hold X. Use your imp to drag the slider left or right. Set it to around 3 seconds. It doesn't have to be exact. If you're a stickler for precision, you can adjust the slider incrementally using the up and down directional buttons. Just hover your imp over the slider and press up or down to tweak the value. In fact, why don't we make things really interesting for Connie? Let's set it to 2.5 seconds. You can close the tweak menu now by selecting the cross in the top corner with X. Or you could use a shortcut. Just hold L1, then press circle while hovering over the menu to close it quickly. The same shortcut works for closing microchips. Give it a try now. Hold L1, then hover your imp over the microchip and press circle. Time to test out the scene in play mode. If you have any problems crossing that last bridge, you can always tweak the timer again in edit mode. Remember, you just hover over the gadget, hold L1 and press square to open its tweak menu. When you're all set, take Connie to the last platform and walk through the door to complete this tutorial.
Now to explore the wider world of dream shaping. Dream surfing. Here we can explore the wilds of the Dreamiverse, slipping and sliding through the strangest and most wonderful ideas and creations. Lose yourself in the kaleidoscope of games, animations, music videos, and all sorts of worlds and experiences made by dreamers just like you. Dream surfing is a never-ending, ever-changing stream of dreamers' imaginations. Let's try it out.
What you looking at? What time do you have some of that? Bish, bash, bosh. What you looking at? Some of that. You, what you looking at? What time do you have some of that? Bish, bash, bosh. What you looking at? Some of that. Que t'es fait, ton roulis en peintre, le voilà.